What's going on, guys? Eric here and welcome to the channel. In this video I'll show you how I wrapped the fender of my 2007 Subaru WRX STI in VVivid's new ultra glossy Tek R carbon fiber look vinyl. This is VVivid's recently re-released Tek R carbon fiber vinyl, and it's the only carbon fiber vinyl, as claimed by VVivid, that's suitable for external use. So with that, let's go ahead and get started with the how-to tutorial. The first step to wrapping your fender is to ensure your fender is thoroughly cleaned. I like to use a clean microfiber cloth, and for my cleaning solution I use a mixture of alcohol and water in about a 70-30 mixed ratio of alcohol to water. Be sure to clean really well and clean your wheel well area thoroughly, as well as your edges. To help clean edges, I like to put my squeegee under my cleaning cloth and use it to get in all the gaps, like between the door and fender and the hood and fender and the headlight area. With your fender thoroughly cleaned, mock up your vinyl on your fender in a manner that puts about the same amount of excess vinyl all the way around at each side. Be sure to have enough vinyl to cover up to the top where the fender might curve over to reach the hood, and where the top of the edge of the fender meets the bottom of the windshield A-pillar. Use magnets or tape to hold your vinyl in place. With your vinyl set, I like to cut out the excess vinyl in the wheel well area and by the bumper below the line where the fender and the bumper meet. Be sure to leave enough excess in the wheel well area to wrap into the wheel well if you plan to do that, as well as to cover the front of the fender where it meets the bumper. When you have your vinyl set up how you want, it's time to start applying. I personally like this to section off the vinyl for application, so in this case I'll use my back slitter knife to make a cut in the backing paper on the vertical section of the vinyl by the door at the back side of the fender. This is so when I peel the upper vinyl and work the vinyl towards the front of the car, the vinyl at that lower bottom area isn't catching on the car. And once I've done that, I like to peel the backing paper from the upper portion, in this case starting at the back by the top of the door and A-pillar, and peel the backing paper away towards the front of the car. You can see that when I do so, I peel some of the paper, tack the vinyl to the door and the A-pillar, and add magnets to help hold the vinyl on the car so it doesn't fall when I peel off the rest of the backing paper. Once I've peeled off the backing paper completely, I like to set up the vinyl for glassing it out over the curved part of the fender headed towards the front of the car. And at this point, I elected to peel off the plastic protective cap on the vinyl to help make it easier to manipulate the vinyl for this process. However, because I did peel off the cap, I'm going to go ahead and wet my squeegee buffer to help reduce the amount of micro scratching on the vinyl surface while I apply it. In the video, you see I apply part of the vinyl onto the back of the fender and onto the door and reinforce that area with magnets. I then move to the front of the car and pull the vinyl towards the front of the car using the triangle technique, and my goal here is, with this stretch, to glass out the vinyl as best I can, create horizontal stretches to help me later on conform the vinyl over the fender contours, and smoothly get the vinyl over the high point of the fender. I was happy with my first pull, so I went ahead and locked down the high point of the vinyl, which is the bulging fender ridge. I went ahead and applied the vinyl at the top and back of the remaining vertical surface of the fender, and then towards the upper back of the fender you might see I had some horizontal wrinkles in the area, which I glassed out by pulling up at the top of the vinyl, and then I applied it. Notice that in doing all this, I've set up a horizontal pocket above the fender bulge and the vertical part of the fender that meets the hood, with a vent at the front of the car by the headlights. This is because next I'll heat and press the vinyl into that recess above the fender bulge. I'm comfortable stretching into this area because it's a mild recess, and I'm familiar with the limits of stretch and application of this vinyl, which this stretch is well within tolerances. So to do this process of heating and pressing into this recess, get a wrap glove and a heat source like the heat gun I'm using in the video, and heat the area gently until it looks smooth and almost liquid-like. As you heat, you'll see wrinkles form along the top and bottom edges of what you set up, but then it'll smooth out as the heat is applied. Once you've evenly heated the area, press the vinyl by shooting for the deepest part of the recess. And here you can see I'm doing that by using the palm of my hand to press into the vinyl into the deepest part of the recess, and then I'm applying it from the back to the front. And now with that done, I go ahead and finish applying the rest of the vinyl on the main surfaces. At the front, you'll see I made a relief cut in the area where the vinyl is over the headlight, and this was to create a tab of vinyl over part of the fender that goes over the headlight. And once I've got the majority of the main surfaces applied, I then went back to the back of the fender, peeled the remaining backing paper, and applied the rest of the vinyl down the back side of the fender. Go ahead and make relief cuts along the way as you deem appropriate, kind of like what I did. Next, I tackled the front end as there are a few corners to wrap by the headlight. And for the corner at the top of the headlight, I did a stretch, hook, shrink technique that I used to wrap corners. And because I didn't take out the headlight for this install, it can be a little cramped trying to wrap that corner tip, so I just used the corner of my squeegee to help stretch and hook the vinyl around the tip of the corner. And once I finished doing that, I set up the vinyl around the headlight for a tuck and cut. And you'll see I went ahead and trimmed off excess vinyl where the bumper meets the fender. Then I started to tuck the vinyl over the small ledge at the very front of the fender that meets up on the side of the headlight. And to help with this process, I trimmed away some of the excess vinyl stuck to the headlight so I could lift up the vinyl that's stuck on the headlight and then tuck that vinyl up against the edge of the headlight. Once I had the vinyl tucked well around the back of the headlight edge, I then trimmed it out by using the back of the edge of the headlight as my cutting guide. And be careful to take your time here so you don't cut your fender. Towards the top corner, you'll see I stopped short and cut away to leave a tab of vinyl over the corner. And this is so I have enough vinyl to manipulate if I need to redo the corner a little bit later. I finished up the rest of the area around the headlight by gently heating and tucking the edges with my squeegee and my micro squeegee. Next, I tackled the wheel well area where I wanted to tuck the vinyl into the wheel well so no blue is showing, and for this process I gently warmed up the vinyl and applied the vinyl into the wheel well with my fingers and my hand being in a wrap glove. If you need to make relief cuts along the way, being careful not to cut into where the vinyl needs to be applied into the wheel well. And once you've fully applied the vinyl, give it some heat to ensure the vinyl is sealed in well, and to find any areas you might have missed, and then press it in one last time, then trim out the excess by using the inner edge of the fender as your cutting guide. When you're done trimming, be sure to reheat and seal down all your edges. And with the wheel well done, I then trimmed off the excess vinyl at the back of the fender. Here I simply did an empty cut, meaning I angled the point of my knife into the empty space behind the fender edge, and that means I was able to use the flat non-cutting side of my blade against the edge of the fender as my cut guide. And once I finished trimming, I removed the excess vinyl and sealed down the edges with light heat and pressure. Next, I tackled the top of the fender that meets the bottom of the A-pillar by the windshield, and here, using light heat and relief cuts, I molded the vinyl to the top of the fender and bridged it up over to the bottom of the A-pillar. And then using the hard edge of my squeegee, I then tucked the vinyl just over the back edge of the top of the fender and then trimmed away the excess off the top using an empty cut. I then finished molding the vinyl around the back corner and top side of the fender with a bit of help from some heat and the hard edge of my squeegee, and then finished by sealing everything down with my fingers, wrap glove, and heat. Next, I tackled the top side of the fender, and first I cleaned up the vinyl bridged over the fender onto the hood using some heat, then trimmed the vinyl using the side of the hood as my cut guide. I didn't tuck in the excess vinyl left by this bridge cut yet, as I'll take care of that a bit later. Also noticed that I left a tab where the fender goes from the A-pillar to the back of the hood. This little section here, it goes down on the inside by the windshield, so leaving excess vinyl allowed me to wrap down into that area, get it set up for cutting, and then trimming out the excess. This area can be a bit tricky as it's tight and has two corner points. Sometimes it's a little bit deep, so mold the vinyl around your corners, work your vinyl down, heat the shrink, and then trim out everything carefully. With the back side and upper back side of the fender done, it's time to finish up the front corner by the top of the headlight. And then, although I had done a corner tuck earlier, I decided to redo the process to make sure everything is how I wanted it. And as I noted before, I left a tab of material over the corner, this corner, so I could do this process by which I lift the vinyl back from the surface of the fender about an inch or two off the corner, gently warm with the vinyl, and then stretch the corner over the corner tip using the corner of my squeegee to assist. I didn't think of it at the time, but I probably could have popped up the hood at this point to give some additional space to do this process. But anyway, once I had the vinyl hooked over the tip, I molded it a bit with my squeegee and my micro squeegee, hit it with heat to shrink it, molded the vinyl a bit more to my liking while it was still warm, and then went ahead and trimmed it out. And for trimming in the corner, cut first underneath the corner tip and then out and away towards each side of the corner. When I removed the excess vinyl, I then used light heat and my squeegee to ensure everything was sealed down nicely. And once I finished the front corner, I laid down the vinyl. I trimmed along the hood down onto the inside of the fender edge Here I gave the vinyl some light heat to soften it up, used my finger to start the roll of the vinyl over the edge a bit, and then finished tucking the vinyl down to the inside of my fender with my squeegee. Next, I went over the entire fender with heat to make sure no edges are popping up and to find any potential trapped air bubbles that I may have missed. So the fender is now fully wrapped, and this is what it looks like out in the sun. As you can see, this vinyl looks really amazing, particularly when the sun's hitting it. The amount of gloss and depth in this vinyl is pretty unreal. So if you're looking for something that looks really good and looks like real carbon fiber, glossy, epoxied, clear coated vinyl, this might be a good choice to select. Alright guys, so hope this video has been helpful for you. If you did like this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button if you haven't already, and the bell notifications so you get notices when I post new content to the channel. Got more videos in the works on the way that I'd love to share with you guys. Thanks a lot for watching and have a great day.